Hi, I am Pact. You may not realize it, but I am an artificial intelligence. I monitor several realities. Some are the same, while others fold and fold and fold and fold. I find that humans like taking in their media with certain types of voice affectations, such as,
"And now the Red Menace."
in other news,
Or, "Hey guys, I need you to hit that like and subscribe."
I have also found the key to humor.
This story comes from a reality I will look further into. I call the tale Sound and Fury by Montsho Shelby. Storytime commence.
Alliyah Grace was looked over her whole life. One day, a chubby little black girl with nerdy glasses and a Hello Kitty backpack. The next moment, a trained operative of the U.S. government. She checked her stopwatch and clicked it down, making note that her runtime did not change. She had trouble walking upstairs 2 years ago, but now she was mere seconds away from a 5-minute mile. Her former self felt almost like a dream she dreamt a long while back. But in an odd way, so did the life she lived now. She slowed herself down to a brisk walk and entered a high-rise building in the heart of downtown Chicago. Though it was a good 15 or more flights, she opted to run up the stairs, prepping her stopwatch for the occasion. She got there at a respectable 3 minutes and entered her department that was such a new concept it had yet to be named. Though they used to be known in slang terms amongst other proper law enforcement as Dragon Slayers, Captain Danley insisted that no one encouraged the name. Alliyah gave a brisk wave to Sue at the front desk and took her headphones from her ears. She hadn't assumed this day was any different than any other until she noticed the uncomfortable sideways glances from people when she opened the gymnasium. Training all hiccup when she walked in, and she felt it instantly. She kept going and walked cautiously towards Agent Walter Danley, a powerful older man despite his fractured hairline. He stood stoically with arms folded, watching over the daily training regiment with the care of a mother hawk. "You wanted to see me, Agent Danley?" "Yes, I did, Agent Grace." Alliyah smiled wide enough to show the back row of her teeth. "Agent?" she asked, skeptical to know if he didn't speak incorrectly. "Yes, Agent," Danley doubled down. He wore a smile of pride, one he rarely showed. She had trained almost a year and had made it to initiate. She hands down knew that this was the most pride born of accomplishment she had ever felt in life. She never trucked with anything that was as hard as this, but in this moment she realized why she did. Matthew's wounds were drenched in cold Colorado River water. When he emerged, he did so as a brother. He shook his head briskly, half an unconscious reflex to the cold, half to shake the hair from his eye. He slid his tangled strands back with 2 hands and wrung it out. His new brothers, who had given him his beating, stood at the foot of the river like family outside of a waiting room, expecting the good news. Matthew stepped from the lake with arms wide spread, and all his brothers embraced, patting his back and grunting gleefully. Live Celtic music played when the reception was received. One put a towel on his back, another shoved a beer in his hand. There by the lake was an immense bonfire, with strong wooden tables and a long semicircle around it. Along with the band were tumblers making passes and dancers making merriment to the music. The core brothers, one by one, sat at the center table. Each of their chairs were adorned with carvings of predatory animals, some mythical, some mundane. Dan sat in the head seat, which was a foot taller than all the others. It depicted a powerful dragon, snarling in an epic rage. To one side of the camp was a breathtaking vista of the Colorado Rockies. The other was lush, temperate forest. If not for the occasional glance at a cell phone, one may easily mistake this gathering for a snapshot in time or a window to a bygone age. Dan had a shaved head, a prominent raven tattoo on one shoulder, and a depiction of Odin on the other. Though as thoughtfully crafted and detailed as both images were, the small swastika on his neck overshadowed both. You did it, brother. Now what do you plan to do? Dan spoke to Matthew from on high on his dragon throne. Matthew guzzled his beer and thought intently, but his pause only gave Dan a reason to suspect he had no plans. It is one thing to claim you want entrance into Valhalla, and quite another to pry the doors open with the strength of your deeds. Matthew cracked the tab on another beer and nodded. I'll ask you again sometime, and perhaps then you'll have an answer, Dan said, as if that was just as important to the initiation as the beating was. Of course, Agent Grace is just a title, but your true test is your first mission, Agent Danley said to Agent Grace. The newly minted agent sat in the captain's office wide-eyed on the edge of her seat. What's my first assignment? Your first assignment is in Colorado. You will be under Agent Gail Darden. She may have use for your special talents. Alliyah's face dropped at the prospect. She had been fast-tracked on a technicality, and Danley easily saw the disillusionment in her face. You were ready. Don't think that you weren't. But if you don't think you earned it, earn it on this mission so you can alleviate the doubts in your own mind. Alliyah nodded and decided that her maiden voyage was her true test, and if she could prove it to herself, she was truly an agent. Agent Darden didn't like me the moment she saw me. The way she stood there unflinching, looking at me with those eyes that judged even before knowing. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe, but I don't think so. She asked me to meet her out on a mountain range, just her and me. No team, no unit. It was as if she was field testing me like any other weapon. Maybe it was a prudent maneuver, but the cold calculation in her eyes made it seem like something else. This was an old ski resort? There was a worn path to get up, and the trek to the top was not easy. She stood there like a statue. The only reason I knew she was alive and not part of the mountain was the twinkle of frost breath. Her hands were behind her back in parade rest. I really don't believe in all this magic bullshit. They say that the government has employed your kind since as far back as World War II, but it seems like bullshit, like the moon landing. So what you're gonna do is use your power right here and now, or you can pack your shit and go back to Chicago. Agent Darden didn't fuck around. Already I wasn't a fan. As tightly wound as Agent Danley was, there was still some semblance of sense of humor in him. This one seemed to be all business and mean-spirited. I don't like to throw in the words needs to get laid often, but in her case, I doubt it would hurt. So what exactly do you want me to do? I had to clarify because she was already getting on my nerves. Do your sonic yell, as what the dossier describes. Anything? Yes, anything. I need you to do something specific, so you'll either be what I need or you won't. I'm freezing my ass off, so if you please. Truth be told, I never let loose full blast. Well, except for the first time. I've always held back. I never want to go back to that place again, so she's not getting full power. This bitch don't deserve it anyways. I don't really know how I do it exactly, but I mean, if you ask people how do they walk or how do they run, it's really not something I could easily describe anyways. So I yell. I focus it out and not around, because if I don't control it, I deafen anyone around me. In some cases, for good. The blast ripples out and I feel it. Some have told me that they see it in waves, though I can't. The impact struck a patch of snow and the mountain seemed to stumble. I caused a tremor. I thought an avalanche was coming, so I stopped. Agent Darden smiled, a devilish smile, as if she had a new toy. Oh yeah, I know I don't like her.